years ago, 40, 50 years ago. He started researching different religion and science and trying to make a common story from all together, whether they are in harmony, whether they are in conflict with each other. He wrote a book, it's called Quran, Bible and Science. And when he wrote that book, Quran, Bible and Science, he described that there are so much information in Quran that are about scientific information that 1400 years ago, no one would know that. Few hundred years ago, no one would know that. Now, the Quran has those information for all these 1500 years, and scientists are discovering this knowledge today. And so because of that, it proves, it is a clear evidence that this book cannot be written by any human being. So Maurice Bucaille became a Muslim. Subhanallah. It was in 1962, there was a French scientist, Jacques Cousteau. Jacques Cousteau was an oceanographer. He used to do research on oceanography, on water in the oceans. When he was doing his research in 1962, he came to learn that some German scientists, they have discovered a new knowledge. They have discovered something new. And that is that where the Red Sea and the Indian Ocean, the two oceans, they combine, in that place, the two water doesn't mix with each other. So it was something kind of a weird thing. If you have two water flowing one beside another, they will get mixed with each other, right? What do you think? They will get mixed with each other, right? That's the thing. But when he got that, when he heard that, he thought, okay, then he would do the same experiment in another place. He selected a place in the Atlantic Ocean and Mediterranean Ocean. The point where the two oceans, they combine the land, this is called Gibraltar Point. He did his research, he took a submarine, he sank inside the water. He did his research for months on the water. And what he found was that the water in Atlantic Ocean and the water in Mediterranean Ocean, the two water, the place where they come and meet together, they don't mix with each other. The two water have different salinity, different density, the two water have different properties, different temperature. This was a new discovery in the science. No one knew it before. Why would two water, and when we know that water is miscible fluid, they always mix with each other, why would two water wouldn't mix with each other? He started writing a report, he would publish it into the journal. Before the publication, he was talking to another scientist. That scientist happened to be Maurice Bucaille. He talked to that person, Maurice Bucaille, I just mentioned about him a few minutes ago, that I discovered a new knowledge, and you know that the scientists, they talk to each other. I found something new in the ocean in my research recently, and this is what I found. Maurice Bucaille told him that this is something you will find also in the Quran. He became surprised. How come? This is something that I just discovered today. I haven't even published it. No one before me, no scientist before me knew about that. How can it be in the Quran? He took a copy of the Quran, he read the translation, he found that in the chapter, in the Quran, in Surah Al-Rahman, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning in chapter number 55, verse number 19 and 20, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, مَرَجَ الْبَحْرَيْنِ يَرْتَقِيَانِ بَيْنَهُمَا بَرْزَخٌ لَا يَبْغِيَانِ. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the one who has set free the two oceans. There is a barrier between them, so they don't mix with each other, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying that it's His glory. He has created the oceans, the two oceans, they flow side by side, they don't mix each other. There is a barrier in between them. Now these scientists, they are saying there is no physical barrier, but there is a virtual barrier between them. There is something that is preventing them from mixing with each other. The water on this side doesn't go to the other side. The water on the other side doesn't come to this side. This water has more salt, that remains as it is. This water has less density, that remains as it is. They don't mix with each other. How can this happen? The scientist, Jacques Cousteau, he became Muslim. He said such information cannot be in a book if that book was written by a human being. He converted to Islam. And then he died. Let me give you another example. Quran speaks about the mountains. Quran speaks about the mountain. In chapter number 78, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, verse number 6 and 7, أَلَمْ نَجْعَلِ لَهُ مِهَادًا وَالْجِبَالَ أَوْتَادًا. Have I not extended this earth for you? Have I not created this earth, extended for you? And the mountains as pegs for you? Now the word autada, when it is translated, it means pegs. And pegs means like something when you use something, when there are two pieces of plate, you put together, you put a peg into them, right? A peg, a spec that keeps the two things together. Usually it has a top and then there is an extruded, sharp edge, extended portion that enters into the surface. That is what a peg is. That is what an autada is. When we look at the mountain, we see it's a pile-up of the sand. We don't know anything else. We think the mountains are just a pile-up of sands. People brought the sand, you can bring the sands or the stones, put them together, pile it up at one place, that's a mountain. But that is not a mountain. Quran is saying, have I not created the earth expanse for you and the mountains as specks for you? Meaning that these mountains are not just pile-ups of sand. These are a structure that has a top and then that has extrusions that extends into the deep of the surface of the earth, that keeps the surface of the earth, the two plates of the earth together, that keeps the earth not moving from each other. This is something that recently, just few years ago, one scientist, his name was Frank Press. He was the president of Academy of Science in the United States for 12 years, and he was the former science advisor for the President Jimmy Carter. He confirmed this, that yes, the mountains that we see today are not just a pileup of sands; they are kind of edge-shaped beings, which has sharp edge at the bottom, and that edge that extrudes into the deep, into the surface. Now, the meteorologists, what they describe, the geologists, what they describe is that our earth is made of tectonic plates. Our earth is made of earth crusts. There are plates, like if you have on the surface of water, if you put some plastic plates, one on another, and they will keep moving from one another, right? Right? This is the same way the earth is made of. There are earth crusts that are about 1 to 5 kilometers deep, earth crusts that are floating on the mantle, that are floating on liquid, and they can move from one another. The mountains are in the places where two earth crusts, where two tectonic plates, they are joined. So at the joint of those two plates, at the joint of two earth crusts, those mountains are there, and they are working as, they are acting as pegs. They are acting as to keep them binded so that they don't move from one another. Subhanallah. Now this is so many hundred years ago, no one would know that. Now Quran is describing. Now the scientists are discovering this. Quran also speaks about the fingerprint. As you know, the Quran says in chapter number 75, verse number 4, Surah Qiyamah, the Quran is saying, بَلَا قَادِرِينَ عَلَىٰ أَن نَسَوِيَّ بَنَانًا. That yes, we are able to put together in perfect order the very tips of his fingers. Why would Quran speak about the tips of the fingers? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is speaking that how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to resurrect the human being on the day of judgment. He is saying, do you think that it will be difficult for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to recreate you once you become dead, once you die, you disappear, your flesh and the bones and skins disappear, mix up in the sand and dust? Do you think it will be very difficult for him to bring back all your components, all your elements, put together and recreate you? Do you think it's going to be difficult? Remember that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the knowledge. He has the ability to put together the very tips of your fingers. What do we have in the tips of my fingers? Today, the scientists know this is a complete new field of science, a complete new subject of science, which we say biometric study, where we try to identify one person from another person, distinguish one person from another person based on their fingertips. Now we know today that the fingertips is such a miraculous creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that no two human beings on the earth share the same fingertips. The fingertips, the imprint that we have in our fingertips, my fingerprints, my imprint is different from all other of yours fingertips. This is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying 1450 years ago. That remember, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is capable of putting together the tips of your fingers. Now that the science says that the scientific The scientists say that this is kind of a creation code for human beings. Like if you have product codes, right? You go to Walmart, you go to any of the stores, superstore, wherever you go, you take a product code, put a scanner upon that, put a laser upon that, it will just read the code, it will say, okay, this is the product, it's upon there, these are the information about the product. Maybe this is what our fingerprint is. This is, at least, we know for sure that everyone's fingerprint is different from one another. So even if Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just orders, kun fayakun, all the fingerprint of one person, all the information that are in this person, put together, assemble yourself together, automatically it will reassemble. When he wants to do something, he says kul kun, he says be, fayakun, and then it happens. And then similarly there is another full chapter, and that chapter is about the embryology. The chapter is about embryology. When you read in the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes about the embryology in such a beautiful way, in such a beautiful manner, that it amazes us. Let me read it just in Arabic, the way it is in the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying in the Quran, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ مِنْ سُلَالَةٍ مِنْ طِينٍ ثُمَّ جَعَلْنَاهُ نُطْفَةٍ فِي قَرَارٍ مَكِينٍ ثُمَّ خَلَقْنَا النُّطْفَةَ عَلَقَةً فخلقنا العلقة مضغة فخلقنا المضغة عظاما فكسونا العظام لحما ثم أنشأناه خلقا آخر فتبارك الله أحسن الخالقين. Now look at here. This is describing step by step, stage by stage, one stage after another, then another, how the human being is created, how a human fetus is created and grown and is grown in the womb of its mother. The translation is something like this: man, we did create them from a quintessence. Then we place him as a drop of his sperm in a place of rest, firmly fixed. And think about it. It's saying firmly fixed. No one would know thousands of years ago, or hundreds of years ago, or even 50 or 70 years ago, that how the sperm in a human womb how it stays there. Is it moving there? Is it firmly fixed there? How it stays there? No one knows. Quran is saying that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts it there, firmly fixed. Then we made the sperm a clot of congealed blood. So the sperm, it converts into a piece of congealed blood. Then out of that congealed blood, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, we made a fetus lump, a lump of flesh. Then we made out of that lump bones. And then we clothed that bones with flesh. Then we developed out of it another creature. So the Quran is saying that when the sperm is going in a human womb, the first stage is it's being fixed somewhere inside the womb, firmly fixed. Then it is being converted into a piece of congealed blood. Then it is being converted into a piece of flesh. Then it is being converted into a piece of bones. And then out of that bone, out of that skeleton, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala covers that skeleton with the muscles. And then that muscle is covered with the skin. These are the stages how a human being, how a living being is created, is made inside the womb. How would someone know 1450 years ago? How would the Prophet ﷺ know it so many years ago? Unless someone told him.